Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest today is Sergei Karaganov, who is the Dean of the School of International Economics and Foreign Affairs of the Higher School of Economics in Moscow, and he's also an advisor to the Russian government. Thank you very much for being our guest. In the West, there are lots of concern about the direction of Russia after the return of Vladimir Putin as president. Criticism about crackdown on the opposition, on non-governmental organization, on the press, etc., etc. What is your take on what's happening right now?
Well, Russia is developing not in the best possible way, but there has been certain tightening of the screws. I wouldn't say that there is a crackdown as of yet, thanks God. We know what is crackdown in my country. So we are still pretty in the position of a country which has never been freer, more affluent in our history. But of course, I mean, we are developing, and that with leaps forward and with some returns back. Now, probably we are living through a conservative turn.
Why? Is it because of Vladimir Putin's
return? No, it is not. It is not because of Vladimir Putin. I mean, during Medvedev's time, there was no movement forward. I mean, we have been developing in terms of economy, only backward. I mean, but then there was a kind of expectations that of parts of the society there will be more opening. I mean, the part of society, thanks God, demanded that, especially after elections which looked phony. Then came Putin, and there was not a crackdown, but he tightened up the screws.
Why?
Just because probably he believes that the society to develop needs to be stable, and he's afraid of getting things out of control.
Well, what's so dangerous in Russia right now,
Russia?
according to him?
Well, I don't know he didn't talk about that to me, but I would say that that a society which have experienced 2 revolutions in 1 century have to be cautious.
But what is the threat to Russia right now?
There is no threat. I mean, that's development. It's normal development. There is no threat. I mean, we are, by the way, one of the biggest challenges to Russia is that it has been always threatened through our history, either from the West or from the East. And we have been developed as a country along the defense against the enemy. And there is no enemy anymore. So we have to develop without an enemy, which is hard enough.
So Garry Kasparov, one of the most eminent members of the opposition, says about the current regime, they want to rule like Stalin and they want to live like Roman Abramovich, who is obviously a billionaire.
Well, I mean, they are not. I mean, it is sinful to compare this regime with Stalin's, who killed. I mean, communism killed tens of millions of people. We have a very soft authoritarian regime. As to the intelligentsia, which is revolting, and I'm a member of that, they want to have also to have a piece of the oil pie, but not to be responsible. That is my answer to Garry Kasparov.
Right, and so do you think the tightening of the screws might ease after a while, or
I think it will ease after a while. Actually, it is easing because on the other side of the coin, there were political reforms. There were easing of voting rules, and there is more political participation. Still very much controlled. We're still a soft authoritarian state, but less authoritarian on the political side.
Right. I want to get to U.S.-Russian relations. There was a lot of talk when Barack Obama arrived at the White House of a reset. Now he's been re-elected. Many people are quite critical of the results of this reset. How do you judge this state of the relationship right now?
Well, the reset was a wrong word, wrong term, it was normalization. And there was nothing has happened in Russian-American relations. And actually, it was quite a conservative normalization. We never moved beyond the old agenda, like arms control, which is not needed very much. At this juncture, we are living through a cool-down period, whereas we have a lot of differences came to the fore. United States believe that they need us a little bit less than they needed us previously because they're starting to get out. They got out of Iraq, and they got out, and they're starting to get out of Afghanistan, and so they believe that they could push a little bit harder, but still relations are normal. There is, however, might be a problem because the outgoing Secretary of State, Mrs. Clinton, said that from now on, United States should interfere and curtail integration processes on the territory of the former Soviet Union, which is weird, and which could bring back, I mean, the fears and the attitudes of the Cold War. Whereas some people say if they even blocking, I mean, very simple economic integration like Europe had in the late 50s, early 60s, which is happening on the territory of the former Soviet Union among 3 of the former Soviet states, then we would have to hinder the other interests, and that could bring in us towards more of a cold relationship. But I'm not too worried. I mean, we are not enemies anymore, and we are much
But you're
less
not friends yet.
And we will never be friends.
Why not?
Why should we? I mean, who are friends? I mean, we are friends with France because we have had wars, we defeated you, and then we, I mean, had a very close and cultural relationship. Yeah, but I mean, with the United States, we have differences of interest, and also we're very, very far away.
Let's talk about differences. Syria, for instance, has been a major bone of contention between Russia and the United States. What's your reading of this dispute and the situation, obviously, in Syria?
Well, we in Russia, analysts couldn't quite understand what is the attitude of our American or even some of our European friends towards Syria. I mean, do they support the most radical, most conservative, the worst regimes and forces in the Middle East, which are waging a war in Syria? It's a Sunni, supported by the very conservative regimes in the Gulf, against, of course, a very unpleasant and sometimes ugly, but nevertheless civic regime of Assad. That is what is happening.
So for you, it's a civil war, and it's between two equivalent powers? Because in the West, it says it's a rebellion, the people are rebelling against the regime.
Let's put it this way. I mean, we are here when we hear judgment like that, and we know that it's not true.
Why not?
Or because it's not true, because it's a rebellion, of course, of forces against anti-regime forces, but these were Sunnis who reigned that country until 60s, and then lost power to other sects, and then also were suppressed. But now, I mean, they are armed and financed also not by these regimes. And our Western colleagues who preach democracy are supporting, I mean, the worst in the Middle East. We know pretty well what Orthodox Islam is, and we are not willing to strengthen the forces of Orthodox Islam.
So what should be done? I mean, so this is why Russia still supports Bashar al-Assad?
We are not supporting at all. We are saying, do not interfere. Let them solve their problems.
But they're not solving the problem. They're slaughtering each other.
They are slaughtering each other. That means that what could we do? So what if there is a civil war, the worst thing to be done is to interfere into a civil war.
How do you see this ending in Syria? What's the endgame scenario for you?
The endgame in Syria and the whole Middle East is endless war.
Endless war.
Yes, which was started by the Arab Spring, which was a rebellion of part of intelligentsia, but most of the street against ugly but civic regimes of the Middle East, and which brings back the worst and in Islam and the most conservative forces in Islam. And that would mean that the whole Middle East from now on will be even a less stable place than it used to be.
Is this the vision of Vladimir Putin? When
I do not know about the vision of Vladimir Putin, but there's a vision of most of the experts whom I trust. And I must say that these experts never missed the point.
Okay, so you believe that there'll be war not only in Syria, but in neighboring countries as well?
There will be, I mean, there is already, by the way, there has been a war. I mean, the whole set of wars was opened, of course, when Iraq on false pretext was attacked. And that changed the balance of powers in the area in favor of Iran. I mean, of course, I mean, the Sunni regimes in the Arab world, I mean, felt threatened, and so they started counterattack through Cairo, through Damascus, and through Libya, and through Tunisia. Hopefully Tunisia will stay, but it's trembling. Libya is done. I mean, it is not a viable country anymore. So that will be a very, very long and very difficult period of history, and we are not willing to be on the wrong side of history, and that is on the side of the most conservative reactionary regime which bring social degradation of the Middle East.
Okay, Sergei Karaganov, thank you very much for enlightening us on your views on many of the issues in Russia and in the Middle East, and thank you for watching this edition of The Interview on France 24.